Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon watching the endless stars through the main screen. His ship moved slowly through the empty space near the edge of human territory. Jake had been out here for 3 months doing routine patrol work and checking on mining stations. The job was boring, but someone had to do it. Commander Lisa Hayes sat at her station monitoring communications from across the galaxy. Most days she only heard reports from human colonies and trading ships. Today felt different, though. Her equipment was picking up strange signals from deep space. "Captain Morrison," Lisa called out with worry in her voice. "I'm getting something odd on the long-range sensors. It's a distress signal, but it's not from any human ship." Jake walked over to her station and looked at the data scrolling across her screen. The signal was weak but clearly artificial. Someone or something was calling for help from very far away. "Can you clean it up and figure out who sent it?" Jake asked while studying the readings. Lisa worked her controls for several minutes trying to boost the signal strength. Slowly, the static cleared and alien voices came through the speakers. The language was musical and soft, unlike anything they had heard before. "It's from the Zilani Confederation," Lisa said with surprise. "They're the peaceful plant people who live about 200 light years from here. But, Captain, this doesn't make sense. The Zilani have never talked to humans before. They think we're too violent and dangerous." Jake frowned as he listened to the desperate alien voices. Even without understanding their words, he could hear the fear and panic in their tones. Something terrible was happening to the Zilani. "Work on translating their message," Jake ordered. "I want to know what has them so scared that they're asking humans for help." Over the next hour, Lisa used the ship's computer to decode the Zilani language. The translation that came through made everyone on the bridge go silent. The Zilani were being destroyed by something called the Korath Swarm. These silicon-based aliens were eating entire planets and killing billions of Zilani civilians. The message explained that the Korath had already destroyed 12 of the 17 Zilani homeworlds. The remaining Zilani populations were trapped on heavily defended planets, but their defenses were failing. They had maybe 6 months before the Korath finished wiping them out completely. They say they've learned something important about humans. Lisa continued reading the translation. "Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, which makes humans the most dangerous natural warriors in known space. They're formally requesting military help from our government." Jake felt his stomach tighten. He had heard rumors about Earth being considered a dangerous planet by alien standards, but he never thought much about it. Humans just seemed normal. To him, the idea that other species saw them as terrifying warriors was hard to believe. "Send this message directly to Admiral Parker at Luna Command," Jake told his communications officer. "Mark it as highest priority and tell them we need immediate orders." The response from Earth came back within hours. Admiral Ben Parker himself appeared on the main screen looking tired but determined. The old soldier had fought in every major human conflict for the past 30 years. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Parker began in his gruff voice, "you've just delivered the most important message in human history. The Zilani situation is worse than their transmission indicated. Our long-range sensors show the Korath swarm is massive and heading toward human space after they finish with the Zilani." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. If these Korath were powerful enough to destroy an advanced civilization like the Zilani, then humans might be next on their menu. "Sir, what are our orders?" Jake asked. "Return to Earth immediately for briefing," Admiral Parker replied. "We're about to undertake the largest military operation in human history. Every ship and every crew is going to be needed for what's coming." As the USS Horizon changed course toward home, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the Zilani message. These peaceful aliens had spent decades telling the galaxy that humans were too dangerous to join galactic civilization. Now those same aliens were begging humans to save them from extinction. Dr. Kate Sullivan was already waiting at Luna Command when Jake arrived. She was Earth's top expert on alien biology and had been studying the Korath for years. Through intercepted communications and long-range observations, "The Korath swarm is unlike anything we've ever encountered. Dr. Sullivan explained to the gathering of military officers. They're silicon-based life forms that reproduce by consuming rare minerals found only in planetary cores. They've been expanding across the galaxy for over 3,000 years, leaving dead worlds behind them. She brought up holographic displays, showing the path of destruction the Korath had carved through space. Hundreds of star systems were now empty of life. Entire civilizations had been reduced to asteroid fields and cosmic dust. What makes them so dangerous is their complete inability to understand mercy or negotiation, Dr. Sullivan continued. They have a hive mind that sees all organic life as nothing more than obstacles to be removed. Every species that has tried to fight them has been completely destroyed. Admiral Parker stood up and addressed the room full of officers. Gentlemen and ladies, the Zilani Confederation has formally requested military assistance from the Terran Defense Forces. President Manning has authorized me to respond with full force. We're going to war against the Korath swarm. The room erupted in surprised murmurs. Earth had never fought an interstellar war before. Their military was designed for defending human colonies and settling disputes between mining companies. Sir, Jake asked, raising his hand, how do we fight an enemy that has destroyed hundreds of advanced civilizations? The Zilani have technology far beyond ours, and they're losing badly. Admiral Parker smiled grimly. Because, Captain Morrison, we have something no other species has. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every single day. Every human alive today is descended from survivors who fought their way to the top of the food chain on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. He activated another display showing Earth's history of warfare. Thousands of years of constant conflict had shaped humanity into something unique among galactic civilizations, while other species developed advanced technology and peaceful societies. Humans had learned to fight and survive in conditions that would kill most aliens. The Korath think they understand warfare, Admiral Parker said with confidence. They're about to learn what happens when they threaten a species of natural born. Killers who refuse to give up? President Carol Manning stood before the United Nations Emergency Assembly with the weight of history on her shoulders. The Great Hall was packed with representatives from every human nation and colony. She had called this meeting to discuss something that would change humanity forever. Fellow humans, President Manning began as her voice echoed through the chamber, we have received a formal request for military assistance from the Zilani Confederation. They are being systematically destroyed by an alien force called the Korath Swarm. If we do nothing, these peaceful beings will be extinct within 6 months. The assembly erupted in heated discussions. Some delegates argued that humanity should focus on protecting their own colonies. Others insisted that helping the Zilani was a moral duty. A few worried voices pointed out that Earth had never fought an interstellar war before. The decision before us is simple, President Manning continued, raising her hand for silence. Do we stand by and watch as billions of innocent beings are slaughtered, or do we prove that humanity deserves a place among the civilized species of this galaxy? I propose that we honor the Zilani request and deploy our full military might against the Korath threat. The vote was close, but humanity chose to fight. Within hours of the decision, Admiral Parker activated Protocol 7, which was Earth's most classified military directive. Hidden shipyards throughout the solar system began working around the clock to produce warships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Colonel Ryan Mitchell received his orders while training Marines on the moon base at Tycho Crater. He was told to prepare his forces for ground combat against an enemy that had never been defeated. The challenge excited him more than it scared him. Listen up, Marines, Colonel Mitchell addressed his troops in the main assembly hall. We're about to face an enemy that thinks organic life is just food waiting to be consumed. Every other species that fought them used long-range weapons and automated defenses. We're going to do something different. He activated a holographic display showing Korath warrior forms. The aliens looked like walking crystals with multiple arms ending in sharp cutting tools. They were built for tearing through metal and stone. These things are tough, but they have weaknesses, Mitchell explained to his attentive soldiers. They're designed for open warfare on planetary surfaces. They don't know how to fight in close quarters against enemies who can think independently. We're going to teach them what human infantry can do. Meanwhile, Chief Engineer Don Brooks was overseeing the conversion of civilian ships into military vessels. Cargo haulers were being fitted with armor and weapons. Passenger liners were becoming hospital ships equipped with the best medical facilities humanity could build. Even luxury yachts were getting missile launchers and defensive systems. I never thought I'd be turning cruise ships into battleships, Don muttered to his assistant while watching workers install weapon systems on a former vacation liner. But if it helps save the Zilani, then we'll arm everything that can fly. The transformation of human space was incredible to witness. Every shipyard was working at maximum capacity. Asteroid mining operations were redirected to produce armor plating and weapons. The entire economy of humanity pivoted toward supporting what military planners called Operation Lifeline. Dr. Amy Foster led a team of scientists working on new combat strategies specifically designed to fight the Korath. Her analysis showed that previous species had failed because they followed galactic warfare conventions which emphasized minimal casualties and surgical strikes. The Korath don't understand mercy or surrender, Dr. Foster explained to Admiral Parker during a strategy meeting. Every species that fought them tried to minimize collateral damage and protect civilian populations. Humans don't have those limitations. Our history shows we're willing to accept heavy losses to achieve total victory. She brought up data from human military conflicts showing tactics that would horrify most alien civilizations. Humans had a history of using overwhelming firepower and accepting massive casualties to win decisive battles. They were also unpredictable in ways that confused enemy planning. We need to fight like humans, not like civilized galactic citizens, Dr. Foster concluded. The Korath expect their enemies to be logical and predictable. We're going to be chaotic and ruthless. The first Zilani refugee ships began arriving at human colonies within weeks of the decision to help. The aliens were amazed by what they saw. Human families opened their homes to strangers from another species without hesitation. Children played with young Zilani despite the language barriers. Adults shared food and medicine freely. Ambassador Thalen was the senior Zilani diplomat assigned to coordinate with human forces. He had spent years studying human culture and warning other species about their violent nature. Now he was seeing a different side of humanity that surprised him. Your people confuse me greatly, Ambassador Thalen told Admiral Parker during their first meeting. The same species that is preparing for total war also shows incredible kindness to refugees they have never met. How do you balance such contradictions? Admiral Parker smiled as he looked out the window of Luna Command at Earth hanging in space below them. Ambassador, humans learned long ago that you need a strong military to protect the things you care about. We're not violent because we enjoy it. We're violent because sometimes violence is the only language that bullies understand. The military build-up continued at an unprecedented pace. Factories that once produced consumer goods were now making ammunition and armor. Universities redirected their research toward developing new weapons and defensive systems. Even artists and writers contributed by creating propaganda materials to maintain public support for the war effort. Captain Nancy Foster received command of a new class of stealth ship designed specifically for reconnaissance missions deep in enemy territory. Her job would be gathering intelligence about Korath movements and capabilities. It was dangerous work, but essential for planning effective attacks. The USS Shadow is unlike any ship we've built before, the chief designer explained as he gave Captain Foster a tour of her new vessel. She's built for staying hidden and getting close to enemy forces without being detected. The armor is designed to absorb sensor sweeps and the engines run almost silent. As the weeks passed, humanity's military machine grew stronger and more focused. Training exercises became more intense as soldiers prepared for combat against an enemy unlike anything they had faced before. Space docks worked around the clock building ships designed for one purpose, which was destroying the Korath swarm. The galaxy watched with growing amazement as the species they had dismissed as primitive barbarians transformed themselves into a military force capable of challenging the most dangerous threat in known space. Some alien observers began to wonder if they had seriously underestimated what humans were capable of when properly motivated. Commodore Steve Turner stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance watching 50 alien ships approach his small task force in the Kepler 442 system. These were Korath scouts, which meant they had found human forces much sooner than expected. His 12 ships were badly outnumbered, but Turner had no intention of retreating. "All ships prepare for combat," Turner announced over the fleet communication channel. "Remember what we learned in training? These things don't know how to fight humans yet, so we have the advantage of surprise." The Korath ships looked like giant metal insects with sharp edges and multiple weapon ports. They moved in perfect formation, showing the hive mind coordination that had destroyed so many other species. Their approach was methodical and predictable, just like every other enemy they had faced. Lieutenant Commander Beth Craig launched her fighter squadron from the carrier USS Intrepid. Her 20 small ships were dwarfed by the massive Korath vessels, but she had studied their tactics and found a weakness. Every previous enemy had attacked from the same plane of space which the Korath expected. "Shadow Squadron, follow my lead," Beth announced to her pilots. "We're going to hit them from below where they won't be looking. Use your missiles first, then ram anything that's still moving." The first exchange of weapons fire shocked both sides for very different reasons. Korath energy weapons were powerful, but designed to punch through the light armor of peaceful species. Human ships were built like flying fortresses with thick armor plating that absorbed tremendous damage. Human weapons were equally surprising to the Korath. Instead of clean energy beams, humans used explosive missiles and kinetic projectiles that shattered the crystalline hulls of enemy ships. The aliens had never faced weapons designed to cause maximum destruction rather than precise damage. "Sir, their shields are down on the lead ship," reported the weapons officer aboard the USS Defiance. "Should we target their engines?" "Negative," Turner replied with a grim smile. "Target their bridge and blow them apart. We're not here to disable ships, we're here to kill the enemy." The battle became more desperate as Korath ships began adapting to human tactics. Their superior numbers started to tell as they surrounded Turner's task force and concentrated fire on individual ships. The USS Princeton exploded under concentrated enemy fire, killing all hands instantly. Turner watched his fleet being slowly destroyed and made a decision that would define human warfare doctrine for years to come. Instead of trying to preserve his remaining ships, he ordered them to attack even more aggressively. "All ships, this is Turner," he announced on the open channel. "We're going to show these things what humans do when cornered. Follow the Defiance and prepare to ram." The USS Defiance charged directly at the largest Korath ship with its engines at maximum power. Enemy fire tore through the hull, killing dozens of crew members, but Turner kept his ship on course. At the last moment, he ordered the reactor overloaded, turning his ship into a massive bomb. The explosion vaporized both the Defiance and the Korath flagship while crippling 3 nearby enemy vessels. The surviving human ships followed Turner's example and launched suicide attacks that destroyed most of the remaining Korath force. Lieutenant Commander Craig led the final assault with her damaged fighters. Half her squadron was gone, but the survivors used their ships as guided missiles when their weapons ran out. The sight of human pilots deliberately crashing into enemy vessels horrified even the human command staff watching from long-range sensors. When the battle ended, only 2 human ships remained functional out of the original 12, but the Korath scouting force was completely destroyed except for 3 damaged vessels that retreated toward their home territory. For the first time in centuries, the Korath swarm had been defeated in battle. The surviving Korath ships carried disturbing data back to their queen mind. These new enemies fought with a ruthlessness that exceeded even the swarm's own methods. They used their ships as weapons, and their crews seemed willing to die rather than retreat. Major Alex Thompson received orders to assault the mining station that the defeated Korath scouts had been protecting. His Marine battalion would be the first humans to fight the enemy on the ground. Intelligence suggested the station contained valuable information about Korath expansion plans. "Remember your training," Thompson told his Marines as their assault shuttles approached the asteroid facility. "These things are tough, but they think in straight lines. Use the environment against them and stay unpredictable." The Marines breached the station using shape charges and entered through multiple access points simultaneously. The Korath defenders were silicon-based creatures that looked like walking crystal formations with multiple cutting arms. They were individually stronger than humans, but they had never faced enemies who fought in small groups using stealth and ambush tactics. Corporal Billy Roberts found himself trapped in a maintenance tunnel with 3 Korath warriors blocking his escape route. Instead of surrendering, he rigged an improvised explosive using his remaining grenades and power cells. The explosion brought down a section of the station's structure, crushing the aliens. Beneath tons of metal debris, Sergeant Linda Moore led her squad through the ventilation system to attack the station's command center from an unexpected direction. The Korath had never encountered enemies small enough to use such routes effectively. Her surprise attack allowed the Marines to capture vital intelligence about enemy movements. Dr. Rachel Stone accompanied the assault force to study Korath biology and technology. She discovered that the aliens had a distributed nervous system that made them very hard to kill with normal weapons. However, human projectile weapons, which other species considered primitive, caused massive trauma to their crystalline body structure. Their whole physiology is designed to resist energy weapons, Dr. Stone explained to Major Thompson while examining alien remains. But kinetic impact from bullets and explosives causes their internal structure to shatter. We need to get this information back to command immediately. Captain Nancy Foster's stealth ship USS Shadow was conducting reconnaissance deep in Korath territory when she discovered something that changed everything. Long-range sensors revealed the true scope of the enemy's industrial capacity. Entire star systems had been converted into massive factory complexes, producing millions of ships and trillions of warrior drones. "This is worse than we thought," Foster told her crew while studying the sensor data. "The Korath aren't just another aggressive species. They're a galactic plague that has consumed hundreds of civilizations. We're looking at an enemy that has been expanding for thousands of years." The intelligence she gathered showed Korath production facilities that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Artificial worlds stripped of all natural resources and converted into pure manufacturing centers. The scope of destruction was almost impossible to comprehend. Back on Earth, Admiral Parker studied the reports from the first engagements with growing concern and pride. Human forces had proven they could defeat Korath units in battle, but the enemy's sheer numbers made victory seem impossible. However, the tactics used by Turner and his crews provided hope for future battles. News of humanity's victories against the Korath spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Species that had dismissed Earth as a dangerous backwater world suddenly found themselves sending urgent diplomatic messages to Luna Command. The proud Alterian Empire, which had never lost a war in their 3,000-year history, formally requested human military advisors after losing half their fleet to a Korath assault. Admiral Parker found himself dealing with alien diplomats who had completely changed their attitude toward humanity. The same beings who once called humans primitive savages were now begging for protection and offering advanced technology in exchange for military support. "Admiral Parker," said Ambassador Vex of the Centauri Coalition during an emergency meeting, "our analysis shows that human combat methods are uniquely effective against the Korath threat. We are prepared to share our shield technology and faster-than-light communication systems if you will provide military protection for our colonies." Similar offers came from dozens of other species. The Rigel Syndicate offered their advanced medical technology. The Vegan Confederacy shared their manufacturing techniques. Even the mysterious Andromedans broke their centuries of isolation to offer assistance to the human war effort. Admiral Parker established Forward Operating Base Cerberus in the contested border systems where Korath and Alliance forces met in constant battle. The massive space station became the largest military facility ever built with contributions from over 30 different species. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists to create weapons and defenses that no single species could have developed alone. General Paul Rogers arrived at Cerberus to take command of the multi-species alliance forces. He was Earth's most decorated combat veteran with experience fighting in harsh environments that would kill most aliens. His first challenge was training alien volunteers in human combat tactics. Fighting the Korath isn't about having better technology, General Rogers explained to a mixed group of alien officers. It's about being willing to do whatever it takes to win. Other species fight to minimize casualties and preserve resources. Humans fight to completely destroy the enemy. The alien officers were shocked by human training methods. Rogers had them practice ramming maneuvers with their ships and suicide attacks with ground forces. These tactics violated every principle of civilized warfare, but they were proving devastatingly effective against the Korath. Captain Helen Price led a daring raid on a Korath breeding facility located in an asteroid field deep in enemy territory. Her mixed crew of humans and aliens had to work together despite their very different approaches to combat. The mission would provide crucial intelligence about how the Korath reproduced and expanded. "Remember everyone," Captain Price announced as her ship approached the facility. "The Korath expect their enemies to attack from predictable directions. Using conventional weapons, we're going to hit them from 6 different angles simultaneously, using everything from missiles to asteroids." The assault began with Price's ship using gravity generators to hurl large asteroids at the facility's defensive positions. While the Korath were dealing with this unexpected attack, human marines and alien commandos breached the structure from multiple entry points. The coordination required was incredible, but it worked perfectly. Inside the facility, Dr. Rachel Stone made discoveries that changed everything humans thought they knew about the Korath. The aliens weren't the unstoppable force they appeared to be. They were actually a dying species consuming worlds in a desperate attempt to avoid extinction. Their reproduction cycle requires specific rare elements found only in planetary cores, Dr. Stone explained to the assault team while studying alien breeding chambers. They're not expanding because they want to conquer the galaxy. They're expanding because they'll die if they stop consuming worlds. This information allowed Alliance forces to predict Korath movements and set up ambushes. The aliens were forced to attack certain types of planets, which made their expansion patterns predictable. Human strategists could now choose when and where to fight battles instead of simply reacting to enemy attacks. Chief Scientist Greg Martinez, working with alien researchers, developed something called the Prometheus Protocol. This new weapon used the Korath's hive mind nature against them by broadcasting specific electromagnetic frequencies during battle. The signals caused temporary disruptions in Korath coordination, creating opportunities for devastating attacks. The beauty of this system is that it uses their greatest strength against them, Martinez explained to Admiral Parker during a technical briefing. Their hive mind allows perfect coordination, but it also creates a single point of failure. Disrupt the signal, and thousands of ships become confused and vulnerable. The first use of the Prometheus Protocol resulted in the complete destruction of a Korath armada numbering over 2,000 ships. The enemy vessels lost coordination during the middle of a battle and began firing on each other. Human forces watched in amazement as the supposedly invincible swarm tore itself apart. However, victory was coming at a terrible price. Earth's colonies were being ravaged by Korath counterattacks as the enemy realized that humans posed an existential threat to their expansion. Entire human fleets were lost in desperate holding actions trying to protect civilian populations. Casualty reports numbered in the millions as the war consumed more and more resources. The industrial capacity of human space was pushed beyond all limits. Every shipyard worked around the clock building replacement vessels. Civilian populations were drafted into military service as the need for personnel grew desperate. Children as young as 16 were volunteering for combat duty to replace fallen soldiers. Captain Tony Russell commanded the assault carrier, USS Vengeance, which had become a symbol of human determination. His ship's hull was covered with the names of every world the Korath had destroyed as a reminder of what was at stake. The crew came from dozens of different species, but they all followed human military doctrine. "We're not just fighting for humanity anymore," Russell told his mixed crew during a pre-battle briefing. "We're fighting for every species that ever existed and every species that might exist in the future. The Korath want to turn the galaxy into a lifeless wasteland. We're going to stop them." The war had evolved beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Battles involved millions of ships fighting across multiple star systems simultaneously. Human tactics of overwhelming firepower and willingness to accept massive casualties were being adopted by other species. The civilized galaxy was learning to fight like humans because it was the only way to survive. Alliance intelligence reported that the Korath Queen Mind was beginning to show signs of stress from the constant defeats. For the first time in their species' history, the swarm was facing an enemy that refused to surrender and couldn't be intimidated. The hive mind was struggling to understand opponents who seemed to welcome death in battle, long-range scouts reported. Massive Korath fleet movements toward what appeared to be their central command facility. The enemy was preparing for a final decisive battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Admiral Parker knew that humanity and their allies were running out of time and resources for a prolonged conflict. Long-range scouts discovered the location of something that changed everything about the war. Deep in Korath space near a massive black hole was an artificial structure larger than most planets. This was the Korath Prime Nexus, which served as the central command and breeding facility for the entire swarm. Intelligence reports confirmed that destroying the Nexus would cripple the enemy's ability to coordinate their forces. Admiral Parker now held the title of Supreme Allied Commander and faced the most difficult decision in galactic history. The Nexus was protected by the largest concentration of military forces ever assembled. Over 50 million Korath ships surrounded the facility in defensive formations that extended across 3 star systems. Getting close enough to attack would require sacrificing most of the Alliance fleet. Operation Endgame is our only chance. To end this war, Admiral Parker explained to the assembled fleet commanders at Forward Operating Base Cerberus, "We're going to coordinate the largest naval assault in history using every ship from 40 different species. The plan requires some of our crews to volunteer for missions they won't survive." The response from human crews was immediate and overwhelming. Thousands of ships volunteered to serve as suicide vessels that would punch holes in the enemy defenses for the main assault force. Alien crews were amazed by humanity's willingness to sacrifice themselves for victory, but many volunteered to follow the human example. Colonel Mitchell prepared his ground assault forces for what would be the most dangerous mission ever attempted. Elite human Marines and alien special forces would have to fight through millions of Korath defenders to reach the Nexus core. The facility's interior was a maze of corridors and chambers that shifted between zero-gravity crushing acceleration and deadly radiation. "Only humans have any chance of surviving long enough to complete this mission," Mitchell told his mixed force of soldiers. "Our Deathworlder biology lets us function in conditions that would kill other species instantly. But we're not going alone because every species deserves a chance to strike back at the monsters who destroyed their worlds." Dr. Amanda Clark had been working with the galaxy's brightest scientists on something that could change the entire nature of the war. Deep scans of the Nexus revealed that it contained the digitized consciousness of every species the Korath had ever destroyed. These stored minds were held in quantum storage systems for analysis by the swarm. "We can turn their greatest triumph into their greatest weakness," Dr. Clark explained to Admiral Parker during a final strategy meeting. "If we can awaken these stored consciousnesses and give them access to the Korath network, we can create a virus that destroys the hive mind from within." The final battle began when over 10,000 Alliance ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Nexus system. The Korath response was immediate and overwhelming. Energy weapons filled space with deadly light as millions of enemy vessels moved to intercept the attackers. Captain Tony Russell led the first wave of assault ships through the outer defensive perimeter. His vessel USS Vengeance had become a symbol of hope for the entire alliance. The ship's hull was now covered with prayers and messages in dozens of languages from species across the galaxy. "All ships, this is Russell," he announced on the fleet communication channel. "Today we end 3,000 years of slaughter. Today we show the galaxy that evil can be defeated when good beings stand together. Follow the Vengeance and let's finish this." The battle was chaos beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human ships used gravity wells as weapons and launched coordinated ramming attacks that shattered Korath formations. Alien vessels provided covering fire and technical support while human crews took the most dangerous assignments. Lieutenant Commander Beth Craig, now promoted to Wing Commander, lead fighter squadrons in desperate attacks against Korath super dreadnoughts. Her pilots used their small ships as guided missiles when ammunition ran out. The sight of fighters deliberately crashing into ships 1,000 times their size became the defining image of human courage. Colonel Mitchell's assault force fought their way through the Nexus interior in battles that defied description. The facility's defenders included warrior forms that had never been seen before. Crystal creatures the size of buildings that could reshape the corridors around them, and smaller forms that moved like liquid metal through the walls. "Stay together and keep moving," Mitchell shouted to his troops while firing at an enemy that seemed immune to conventional weapons. "Remember why we're here. Every step forward is one step closer to ending this nightmare forever." Dr. Clark and her team reached the central processing core after hours of fighting through the facility's defenses. The chamber contained quantum storage devices holding the minds of billions of beings from hundreds of extinct civilizations. The sight was both beautiful and horrifying as streams of light represented the thoughts and memories of entire species. "Beginning the awakening process now," Dr. Clark announced while connecting her equipment to the alien systems. "If this works, the stored minds will have access to the entire Korath network. They'll be able to corrupt the hive mind and turn it against itself." The effect was immediate and spectacular. Across the galaxy, Korath ships began shutting down as their control systems were overwhelmed by millions of angry digital ghosts. The voices of extinct civilizations flooded the swarm's communication networks, demanding justice for their destroyed worlds. The Korath Queen Mind found itself under attack from within as the consciousness of every species it had consumed turned against it. For the first time in its existence, the collective intelligence experienced individual thoughts and emotions. The sensation was overwhelming and terrifying. In the final moments of the battle, Colonel Mitchell found himself face to face with the Queen Mind's physical form. The massive crystalline structure pulsed with energy as it struggled against the digital rebellion consuming its network. Mitchell had the power to destroy it completely, but he made a choice that would define humanity's future. "You can die here as a monster," Mitchell said to the failing alien intelligence. "Or you can live and spend the rest of existence helping to rebuild what you destroyed. The choice is yours." The Queen Mind, experiencing individual choice for the first time in its existence, chose redemption over destruction. The decision sent shock waves through the remaining Korath forces as their hive mind transformed into something entirely new. Years later, Admiral Morrison, who had once been Captain Jake Morrison, stood on the observation deck of New Earth Station watching ships from hundreds of worlds travel freely through space. The galaxy had been forever changed by humanity's intervention. The Zilani had established permanent colonies in human space, sharing their medical knowledge and gratitude. The former Korath now worked under human supervision, terraforming new worlds for the species they had displaced. Their Queen Mind had become something like a conscience, constantly reminding them of their past crimes while guiding them toward redemption. Children from dozens of species grew up together on frontier worlds, learning that strength without compassion was mere brutality, but compassion without strength was merely wishful thinking. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but it now had humanity watching over it, and that made all the difference.